So you know those big bosses that some of us might have a love-hate relationship with, such as the Ender Dragon, the Wither, and the Warden? Well, have you ever wondered why you can't actually have them in the overworld? Well, it's not physically impossible, and today I'm going to talk about an article that I've seen online by Games Radar that says Minecraft devs explain players have a different appetite for challenge and difficulty, which is why the Ender Dragon is not allowed in the overworld. Now, before I jump into this article a little further, a lot of you, or a good portion of you, might know about this spawn egg right here, which is actually the Ender Dragon spawn egg, and if you go ahead and press it against the ground, you can spawn the Ender Dragon in the overworld. Now, obviously, it doesn't randomly spawn on its own in the overworld, which is what they're kind of referring to, but when they say that you can't have it in the overworld, well, it is possible in some way, and I guess the difference between having it just there in your world and spawning it in your world are two very different things. Obviously, if you spawn it, you kind of expect it to be there and, cause some destruction, whereas if it was in your world automatically, by default, then it might cause a little bit of a distraction, and that is what the devs are referring to. Minecraft's developers have explained why the Ender Dragon is bound to its own realm underground and not allowed to roam the overworld. By default, I guess we'll just add that ourselves. For a game about building and creation, Minecraft sure has a lot of ways to absolutely ruin all of your creations and the progress you made towards accruing the materials for said creations. The developers at Mojang seem to understand that, with the CCO of Mojang, Jens Bergensten, admitting that they probably would not add the Creeper to the game today, despite being the series' de facto mascot, since the ability to destroy builds would undoubtedly be controversial if implemented 14 years later. Now, fun fact about the Creeper, a lot of you might already know this, but the Creeper was actually a coding bug. The Creeper was never actually meant to be at all, but then when the bug happened, they're like, you know what, that's a funny quirk that we'll add to the game, and they just kept it in the game all of these years later. Now, one question I've always wanted to know the answer to, and I still actually don't, is if the Creeper, let's just forget that it was added all those years ago, if it was a coding bug as of today, and it was never actually added all of those years ago, would they be able to add it as of today? I don't actually know if they would keep it in the game or not, because it was added so early on, they kind of were allowed to get away with it, but nowadays, because gaming is so different, would they still be allowed it in the game? I don't actually know, and I'm very curious to find out if the devs can answer that question, which I don't know if they'll be watching this video, but anyway, if they can answer that question, that would be great. It's super interesting to see that a mob of that kind was just a coding bug. They never had it in mind before, and they're like, you know what, let's just keep this bug in the game, and now it's one of the biggest mobs we all know and love. I mean, anywhere you go, like shops, you see Creeper plushies everywhere on the shelves, and kids just go crazy over it. I guess that we can call that a happy accident, is what they refer it to, and I think if they were to not keep it in the game, they would definitely regret it. It does also make me wonder that if the Creeper was a new feature that they were going to add to the game as of today, would they either keep it in the game or remove it, or if they did keep it in the game, would they create an entirely new dimension for the Creeper? I don't know what that would be like, but it's definitely a question that deserves an answer. In a video titled The Biome That Broke Minecraft, Bergensten and creative lead Corey Skeviak, by the way, Corey, I apologise if I've just butchered that name there, that was not intentional, talk about designing difficulty in the iconic survival game. We have this guiding principle that bad things happen, but they're technically the player's fault, Bergensten explains, saying that every issue a player should face is either caused by them or something they could prevent, like stepping on a rogue pressure plate, with the aforementioned Creeper being an exception. Another one of the rules set out in the video is don't add features that wrecks players' builds. Skeviak says that it wouldn't really be a good idea to bring the Ender Dragon to the overworld because, pausing for a ton of different reasons, such as I don't need that kind of stress, it destroys everything, and it might break a wing on an ice spike. He adds, you're just home planting your potatoes, and suddenly there's a dragon coming after you. Bergensten agrees, that's not a great game experience. Now, that was the difference between having a spawn egg for the Ender Dragon and just having it there in the world. They are two very different things. As much as they might seem similar, having it by default in your world would not be a great experience at all, especially for newest players who don't know how to deal with it. Whereas when we've got a spawn egg, which by the way is not accessible via the main in-game menu, you actually have to put in a command to access, but having that spawn egg there at least lets the player to expect that the Ender Dragon will cause chaos in their world. Bergenston explains that players have a different appetite for challenge and difficulty, so a boss fight that comes flying at you and destroys everything is not exactly going to suit everyone. He cites the Wither boss as an example, which has destructive power akin to a dragon, but you choose when and where you'll summon it for a scrap, allowing you to minimize damage to your house, which is what I basically just said. At least you can expect it, when you know where to go to summon it. Now the Wither, however, is a little bit different because you can actually spawn it in your overworld pretty easily, but at least if you spawn it, you know where to spawn it. If you don't want it to cause chaos or destroy your house, then you'll know not to spawn it directly next to your house. You at least can go far away where there's no builds and try and attack it there. So yeah, you have that kind of little expectation of what's bound to happen, but with the Ender Dragon and things like the Warden, I think Minecraft did a perfect job when they added these by adding two completely different dimensions for these bosses, because if they were both in your world by default, let's be honest, you would not have a world left. Let me know what your favourite boss is down below in the comments section, and have you eliminated all of the bosses? Also let me know down below. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, make sure you give it a like, a hype, click subscribe, and also share it with your friends. If you like travel vlogs and a mixture of different cultures and experiences, then you might want to subscribe to my brand new travel channel.